Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Dominic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I love that background you have. That looks very
Thank you.
calming.
Yes, it is. It reminds me of my happy place.
Oh, you took that picture.
I did. It's right on Lake Erie, and we have a boat. We enjoy going out on the lake and watching sailboats go by and just
Yeah.
relaxing on the water. It's very peaceful.
Do you have a putt-putt boat or do you have a sailboat?
I have a motorboat. Yeah.
Well, I called it a putt-putt boat. You see
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
And
I'm
that's when the
editing
interview
on
went
that
south.
one.
Hey, that's where the interview went bad.
Not at all.
It's a great way to spend time with family, though, isn't it? Having a boat, getting away.
Yes, it was for me. It was a place where I was forced to go and wasn't getting back anywhere soon. Anytime you're out on the water, it's 25 50 minutes before you can get back to deal with anything. So when I was going crazy running the business myself, it was a place where could go out and relax. And our kids grew up on the boat, and it was great. They would invite friends. We got to meet their friends, have conversations with their friends. It was a great opportunity to really connect with everybody in the family.
I love it.
Yeah,
Hey,
we
Mark,
just
why don't we?
spent, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We just spent Saturday on the boat with all of my children except for my daughter who's in LA for my wife's birthday. So it was
Oh,
a great day.
yeah, no kidding. What a great way to bring everybody together too, especially for your wife's 20th birthday.
Yep. Yes.
Wink, wink. Tell her I said that.
She'll love you.
Yeah. The what do they call it? The 10th anniversary of my 20th birthday, or
Correct.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mark, other people may not know you, and you and I have really just met through people that we know, and I'm so
Right.
thankful you're here because you're a business owner, you're a contractor. But I'll let you tell your story. Mark, who the heck are you, and how do you come to be
So
speaking to construction people?
I'm nobody special. I own a small service contracting business in Western New York, primarily in the Erie and Niagara County area, which is to the western part of New York State. Buffalo is the biggest city, in our area.
Yeah.
And I started the business. I started in the business with my father when I was 14 years old. Through college, he was having some issues with subcontractors and asked my brother and I to come in and work into the business with him. And so I went full time, starting in the business at 19, continued my college degree for 2 years full time and worked full time because I knew if I stopped going to school, I would not go back to school. So I continued doing that. Became a partner in the business in 1996, bought the business in 2008.
Wow.
And that's how I got to be where I am. So it's been all I've known or done. It's the only job I've really ever had up until recently. And I know the struggles. I know what it's like to operate a small contracting business. It's not easy.
Yeah. So you really were born into this business, and
Yes.
kind of, I don't know, was it laser focus or just that's how it happened that you ended up now becoming the owner of it?
Initially, I was when I was young and wanted to do it. I just liked money, so I went to work for my dad every Saturday, every summer vacation, every holiday we had from school, and I really wasn't considering going into this line of work.
Hmm.
I was going to school for business management. I wanted and I had a concentration in finance, so I actually wanted to work on Wall Street, which it's probably a good thing that I didn't, but that's a whole nother story. But I definitely wasn't planning on doing this until my dad asked me to come and work for him. He had some ideas about growing the business, needed to have somebody he could trust to step away. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah.
And then, just continued to try to grow it and try to make it as good as it could possibly be.
So it's obviously gone through a lot of, births and rebirths. What is it you guys do, if you just had to summarize that in a sentence or two?
So in this area of the country, there are basements that are below ground. Not sure if all your listeners have that type of a situation. Most of the northern part of the United States and into Canada do have basements. but they leak. They're made of concrete, they're underground, and water penetrates into the basement. People now, instead of using them for storing coal or whatever products you may have had back in the day, they're now used for living space, and people utilize them. So they want them to be dry. So we provide a service that dries out the basements, dries out yards, and a lot of these foundations, because some of them are over 100 years old, need foundation remediation. So we do some stabilization, we do some foundation repair work, things to make sure that the foundation is sound.
Right. I've dealt with some mold remediation guys in the past, guys that do slab jacking and hydrostatic stuff. And so that's kind of the business that you're in then, is it?
Yeah, it's very similar. We don't do any mold remediation, but we do, jack foundations, we do stabilize, replace center support beams, different, structural things, and as well as drainage and water mitigation.
I thought you did basement waterproofing.
Well, that is what it is.
But I thought it was applying that thick black product over the outside of the foundation on a new home. But it sounds like you actually do remodeling, renovation stuff as well.
99% of what we do is retro work. It's a house that's already existing. Do a lot of the new build application. We stick primarily with homeowners, and it's more remedial. So it's after this has been built and they've had an issue.
If you had to describe the phases of the company, I don't know how you describe it as a child, like the toddler and the teenager. And I don't know what you want to describe yourself as today, but where did it come from when you first started working there? And then when you bought it, and then, what has it gone through to get us to where it is today?
Yeah. So when we started, it was my father and a couple of employees. When I started to work into the business, after I graduated and became a partner in the business, we started to ramp up and take on more employees and go after more work, do some heavy advertising. So that was kind of like a growth phase. And then I had done that for probably up until about 2000. And then my father was talking about stepping away and retiring. So we worked out a transition plan. So I guess the next phase of the business would be transitioning ownership from him to me through the early part of the 2000s until 2008. I was operating the business and still trying to grow it. During that time, my father wasn't really involved in any of the day-to-day and very little bit in any of the strategy or management, but I was kind of leading everything. And then in 2008, shortly after I purchased the business, I realized that I bought a job and and so the next phase was more of me. I would say discovery. What do I need to do to have a business that has value? I realized that none of my children were interested in stepping into the business. So what was my succession plan going to be? And the day I bought the business, it's funny, I'm thinking about how am I going to get out of it? But, I'm a firm believer, Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. If you don't know where you want to go, how do you know you're going to get there? So I ended up, just doing research and trying to understand what does it take to own a business of value. And go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Mark. So this is the transition so many people go through. If you were to describe in that phase what the most stressful day in your life was at that point that made you decide to do that, because a lot of people just start a business and they run it like a job. They never get to the point where maybe they're listening to somebody like you saying, oh, there's another way. What was that stressful point, as much as you want to share with confidentiality, that made you decide?
No problem. I'm pretty much an open book, so I really have no problem. So I was this is around 2014. So I'd been working at this for some time. And I'd struggled. I'd failed completely as being able, I was able to identify what a successful business was, one that sustains profits every single year, and one that has lack of owner involvement in all of the day-to-day activities. So those are I knew what it was, but I failed at trying to do it. And I think for me, the tipping point was one morning about 6:30 in the morning after a night of heavy rain. And being in the waterproofing business, a heavy rainy day is generally puts a smile on your face. And my phone started ringing at about 6:30 in the morning, and my stomach just turned, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of, I guess, burden of what my day was going to be like. And I just realized, like, I cannot continue to do this anymore. I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, having my hand in every part of the business. So every estimate, every single purchase, I was involved in all of that. And it was just completely overwhelming to me. So that was the point where I just realized, like, I need to do something. And like I said, I had struggled. I had hired a business development guy to come in and help with us. And, we knew what we needed to do. My issue was that I didn't have the right people in the right seat on the bus.
Okay.
And that was, including myself. And, somebody had said to me a long time ago, and I use this often, especially when I'm having a struggle within my business. And I ask myself the question, what is it about my leadership that led to this result?
Wow, that's a lot of personal responsibility.
Yeah, well,
I love it. So what is it about my leadership that led to this result? Very wise. And I'm writing this one down because I have to remember it too.
Because it really comes down to what is it that you did or didn't do?
Yeah.
And for me, it was letting go. And we speak about being the bottleneck. I just could not let go of the responsibility, of the oversight, of any of that stuff. And hence the reason I was overwhelmed and feeling like I was ready to have a nervous breakdown. But
I'm sorry that pressure was on you. But I also, in listening to you and observing how you answer questions and process things, it sounds like you're a very thoughtful and process-oriented guy.
Yeah, I try to look at the whole big picture. And it's taken me a long time to learn to not react immediately, but to kind of look at and say, okay, what is the problem? What is the core root of the situation that we're in? And then work towards a result that, is a win-win for all parties involved. Because if you don't have that, then it's eventually going to fail.
So that's a massive personal responsibility. When just your realization, you got it at that point. And I'll repeat back because I'm taking lots of notes here, Mark. What is it about my leadership that led to this result? So when you finally got that question in your head, what was the next action you took when you said, okay, look, I've got to change something I'm doing. We've got this business been running for, call it a generation and a half, because your dad passed it to you. You hit this stress point in the business and you just said, something's got to change. What did you do after that?
So I looked around the room and I quickly realized that, if I'm the smartest person in the room, then we're in trouble.
I couldn't agree more.
And so I started to hunt for people that were smarter than me. And it was a challenge, in a small service contracting business, because, to be honest, if somebody is as good or better than you, they're going to be your competitor. They don't want to be your employee. Right. So, it was a challenge for me to find people that wanted to stick around in the business.
Yeah. But there are people who don't want what guys like you and I want, which is to own a business, to have that responsibility. There's people that, they want to do a good job 9 to 5, punch the clock and go home, coach their kids hockey, soccer, baseball, football, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of good people out there. It is a challenge to find the right one, but they are out there. And that is, that's what we have to do as leaders, is find the people that can plug the holes and be better than we are at those roles.
When you looked around the room, I'm imagining in my mind, it wasn't really looking around the room, but let's just say you're around the boardroom table. Did some people have to go? Like, did you recognize that, hey, Dominic is my X or Y or Z position, but he's a good guy. He's just not our guy. Did that happen?
Yes, that did happen. And
how did you?
That was the that was the hardest part of the process that I had gone through. I thought the letting go would be the hardest part, but it was the letting go of the people that had gotten me to the point that I was at. That was the hardest part.
It's incredibly painful, isn't it?
It is.
And because these people brought you from, I don't know the numbers, but let's say they brought you from 800,000 to 1.2 million, or it doesn't matter what the number is. And they were perfect for that, but they're not good for 1.3 to 5 million. And even though they were there in the hard times, they're not right for the future. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that how you felt?
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize it at first. I'm an optimist, and one of my strengths and weaknesses is that I look to the potential of people, and I see the potential in them, and believe that they have the capacity to do something.
Yeah.
Where I fail is that I'm not making sure that they have the desire and the want. And those are two very, very different things. And you can want somebody to be something that you know that they can be, but if they don't want to be that, then it's not going to work.
I might retitle this episode "Extreme Wisdom" from Mark.
No. You're funny.
I feel like I should climb some big mountain to come and sit at your feet and throw marigolds.
Please don't.
No. But I say that as a compliment and joking, of course. But I really like the wisdom that you're bringing this, because it's you've taken personal responsibility, and it seems like you've had the ability, or maybe the painful experience of being able to then step back and say, okay, look, I want this guy or gal to succeed, but they don't want it. And maybe they're not right for my team. How do you this isn't a lesson on letting people go, but how did you have that first tough conversation, and how tough was it when you said, Dominic, you're not the right guy?
Well, so what I did was I gave them every single opportunity to be successful at the role. And I gave them every tool that I felt that I was capable of giving them. And for me, what worked was, what I call a personal improvement plan. I'm sure people have heard about it.
I've been on PIPs myself. They're just so much fun. A personal improvement plan. Right.
So when you give somebody an outline of what the expectation is, and then you have regimented times when you're regrouping to make sure that they're meeting those things, they will realize for themselves that they're not a good fit. And most of them will decide to pursue other paths.
They'll leave, Mark. They leave. Right. Yeah. So you laid out the expectations. They agreed to those expectations in some sort of private, closed door meeting, respectful, right?
Yep.
And then you said, hey, listen, Dominic, this is, for your position, this is the expectations over the next 4 months. Let's set some milestones. Let's set some goals. And then at the end of 4 months, I know that meeting's coming and I haven't hit them. I might roll through one PIP, but I'm probably not going to roll through the second one.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes. And the most important part of that whole process is not to set it and forget it, because that is just setting the employee up for failure. So you set it, and then you meet with them and you ask them how they're doing, and you ask them, you provide your job. I feel my job is to be the support that they need to be successful. So I have to be available. I have to accept failure, but also expect that from that failure is going to be a learned improvement. And if I don't see those things, then the writing is generally on the wall.
Those are some big learnings. It's very painful for me to let people go because I'm very social. I like to build a team, and I think I recognize the efforts people put in when I'm going through my growth path plan.
Right.
And to let them go at some point, to say you're not part of the future, is hard on me. I don't find it easy, but communication really does at the end of the day, that's it. Like, this is where we're going.
Right.
And then to your point, are you on the bus? Are you not?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So that's what brought you to the point where you knew you needed to make a change. And then what did you do in the company to start pulling yourself away to get out on that boat?
Yeah. So it wasn't planned. It was, I would say, dumb luck. But I'm fortunate to have that luck. I actually looked for an engineer to create processes in the business. I thought, well, an engineer can take things apart and put it back together. And so I looked for a process engineer, hoping that he could create systems and processes within the business that I could then use as training modules for my employees and
Right.
and move on. But I ended up finding, this kid. They call him a kid. He's 29 now, but he's an absolute rock star. And I don't know. I'm so blessed to have that opportunity to learn from him as much as he thinks he learns from me, but I don't really.
Yeah, you're too kind to yourself.
Too much credit for that.
You're too hard on yourself. Yeah.
But he definitely brought in some structure, brought in some accountability, and what we began doing is taking a look at the business. And this is something that we do now for other companies, but we break it down into a break-even model. So where are we at now?
Yeah.
And where do we need to be to break even? What's that revenue look like? And a lot of businesses, especially in the contracting business, you have highs and lows, peaks and valleys. So you can't just say, I'm going to do, $20,000 a week and make $1 million. You might be doing, $50,000 a week during, 2 or 3 months of craziness. And then, the rest of it levels off. So it was understanding the peaks and the valleys, where we needed to be, planning for that, creating a budget and putting together a plan for the year that would allow us to meet the goals that we needed to meet. After we did that, we were then able to look at our expenses and start whittling away at, the top line in terms of gross margin. How do we cut down on labor? How do we cut down on material costs? What are some efficiencies that we can create in the business in that regard? And then the most important thing, which I hadn't realized, but a lot of us contractors want to be safe. We want to have a cushion. We want to, we hire an extra person just because we might need to have that person and we're afraid to be late, but to not have enough people available. But what that creates is inefficiencies. So we looked at our bottom line, our administrative costs, and we figured out how can we cut those down. And what I realized from that is that every dollar that you save on the bottom half of your balance or your income statement goes right to profit, right? If you want to increase your profitability, it's far easier to cut costs on your administrative, your G&A, your general administrative expenses, than it is to add sales. Because for every dollar you want to make, you have, whatever your gross margin is, you've got to do 1.x of whatever
that to get it.
Sales to get that, right? So that was very enlightening to me and helped me to understand, okay, let's look at this as a business and what are the steps we need to make to,
You mean looking at a construction company as a business? Right, what's this craziness you talk about?
Well, if you want to go from a job to a business, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
So
this is what I hear from people sometimes. Dom, you don't understand. I run a rough business with a rough crew. I hire my guys off, call it Craigslist, or they show up at the job site. These are guys that aren't overly motivated. They just want a job, and you want me to run it like a business? I'm just trying to hold together a crew of guys that sometimes I can't count on. But that's what you have, right? You have a group of laborers and semi-skilled and skilled guys, and
every business, every business has that. I mean, if you're in manufacturing, you've got the frontline workers. We're all in a very similar boat. We all do feel like our business is special. Our problems are unique.
Yeah.
But they really aren't when you look at it in terms of a business. It's people, it's process, and it's profit. I mean, there's 3 simple things that you need to think about and focus on.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people, and one of the things that we utilize when we make our decisions in the strategy session and when we're talking about a problem is it's win, win, win.
Yeah.
Does the company win? Does the customer win? And does the employee win? And those 3 things has to happen for those 3 entities in order for this to be a sustainable process change that we make, because any change is difficult.
Yeah.
And the people that are going to be asked to make the change do not see the benefit to them, then it's not going to be something that they buy into.
Right. Well, on that note then, because if they don't see a change in their life and how hard they're working or how easy we can make their work or efficient, what does a day on the job site look like? Or if I showed up to your job site, let's say I'm a day one laborer,
Yep.
what does a day on the job site look like? Well, how does it start? How does it run? How does it end?
Well, we generally do meet at a central location, our warehouse, and we try to introduce the guys. I generally will try to do a little presentation on a first day with a guy of what we do, how we do it, what does it look like, what is Utech waterproofing. Then when we go out and introduce the guys, to the new employee. Sometimes I'll take them to a job. Sometimes it'll be a project manager, take them out to the job, show them what we do. And then when they're doing the work, it's breaking up concrete in the basement and filling it into 5-gallon buckets and carrying it up the stairs into a dump truck or a dumpster, and then taking all the material that you've taken out of the basement and replacing it with new stone, new piping, and new.
Yeah.
So it's a very labor-intensive physical job.
Yeah. I think I've had those jobs before. Go break that. Go make that. Go break that. Go clean that up. Bring me more stuff.
Yeah.
Clean that up. Yeah. And do you have systems for that, for instance? Like, do you have processes? Do you have a job site checklist? Do you have rules for what it means to be on your team? Like, what are the things you guys do?
Yeah. So we have a set of we call it a job breakdown sheet. It's a JBS. And what it does is it outlines every process of what we do and how we do it, step by step, with, what is it we're doing? Why are we doing it? What should it look like when it's done? So there's photos, there's language. And one of, the engineers that we had brought in, it was an intern project that they did. Yeah. That was a job for the entire, I think it was a 6-month project where they went out, looked at every job, every process, and broke it down and created a JBS for us.
What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What does it look like when we're done?
Correct.
And is that something that, like, does it hang on the job site in a laminated sheet? Or?
Yeah, every employee is given a booklet.
Wow.
And, one of the fears, the old me would have been freaking out and saying, oh my God, we're going to put all of our processes, how we do this, and we're going to give it to these guys that are going to leave us in, 2 months and take it with them.
Fill your boots, buddy. Yeah, go give it a try.
But it's worked. It creates, the Utech process, the Utech way.
The Utech way. Do you sell based on the Utech way? Now I'm jumping from the production side all the way back in that question to the top of the funnel of bringing in business. You just said the Utech way. Is that something that you would tell me as a homeowner?
Yes, we don't necessarily need to do that. And we've been fortunate enough to enjoy a very, very good reputation in the area. We actually have other people doing that for us. For example, we'll have real estate agents who list a house and it'll say Utech waterproofed basement.
Oh, you've got that kind of brand, do you?
So yeah. We're fortunate enough to really have a very good, name recognition.
You're the name.
Yeah.
That means something. Congratulations on that, because that has a recognition to it right there. I'm at loss for words. When you go to sell a company, that's the goodwill.
Yeah.
Or that forms part of the goodwill, doesn't it?
Right.
It's not Rubino's waterproofing, because the realtors aren't listing that on the MLS. They're saying this is a Utech waterproof basement, and that carries some weight in the local market.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
A lot of hard work, but very worth it.
What does the future look like for Utech?
Well, what we're really trying to do is to each year or each quarter, depending on how big the initiative is, we try to come up with some process that's going to improve what we're doing and make it easier for our guys, make it more profitable for the organization. And we just continue. One of the things for me is innovation is a key to what we do, and we need to continue to try to do that. And not just be comfortable and happy and say, well, we're successful because we do it this way. This isn't the only way that we want to do that. Like, for example, one of the initiatives that we had in 2019 was to go virtual, 100% virtual, have no office. And in January of 2020, we started the initiative to go completely virtual. Our office is part of a complex that I own, and we had it in the house portion of the complex. I rented out that house starting in April 1, at the end of February, and then March 3rd or March 10th was when COVID hit. So everybody was forced to go 100%, and we were already set to do that. So we look for things. I mean, we didn't know that this was going to happen, obviously.
Yeah. If you did know, I've got some other questions for you.
It was very, it was very timely, and that has saved us, tremendous amount of overhead dollars that now, are part of the profitability of the organization.
So a lot of other people have had to go virtual, and some can't. People who have a manufacturing shop, or framers, or they build pools or landscape, they just can't go virtual. But how do you guys overcome that? Like, how do you fill in the part where people need to meet for meetings, to stand in front of the dashboard and do a huddle, or training, pick up tools?
Well, the guys still meet at a location. All of our administrative and office staff, the sales part of it, the admin part of it, the bookkeeping, all of that, where we had 4 or 5 people in an office, was all is all virtual. We fractionalize a lot of the work to people. We hire people that are really good at one thing and hire them to do a portion of what it is that we need, instead of trying to do everything all in house.
So you subcontract things like plumbing, or
we subcontract the plumbing, but in more of the administrative part of it, we subcontract somebody answering the phone. We subcontract somebody doing the bookkeeping. We have a project management system and not a sales system. One of the things that we changed, we had sales in it, and the sales would go out and sell the work, and then our production staff would have to try to do the work. Well, that model didn't work for us, because Mr. Salesman tells the homeowner A, B, and C, and then technician is like, wait, you want me to do what? Like, how do you expect me to do that? So we changed it to a project manager model, where the contact focal point for the homeowner is one person, the project manager. He looks at it, diagnoses it, provides the estimates, schedules the work, schedules the materials, and oversees the process of the job. And he's paid on the profitability of the project above and beyond, his base salary.
How do they? That's interesting that you do that. That's actually a really innovative way of looking at things, because a lot of project managers, well, I'm going to say this ignorantly because I don't know it to be the case, and I'm waiting for you to smile like you're smiling and tell me the way it is. But I would think a project manager grows up wanting to be a project manager, not a sales guy.
Well, but the part of the role of a project manager is to manage the project, look at, what are the challenges within that project. And we feel that the very first thing is knowing what the problem is. So it's not really a sales role. And we found that most homeowners want a technician who has been in the trenches and done the work and understands it. They love that more than they love the dressed, slick-haired guy who's showing them a pamphlet full of pictures, and so they really resonate with that person, and it's increased the closing rate. When we first initiated this, our closing rate went from 35% to over 60%.
That's huge, because 30 and 35% is already pretty good.
Yeah,
that's actually very good.
It was insane. I could not believe it. I was like blown away by the amount of closing that these guys were doing by connecting with the homeowner as a guy that's been in the trenches and knows how to do the work. Homeowners trust people like that.
So it's a guy who shows up dressed more like he's on the tools or just barely off the tools than a guy who shows up. Yeah, that's interesting. And it goes to branding, doesn't it? So you guys have consistent look, uniforms, the trucks, the vehicles are wrapped, and Mark, just amazing. What a great story. And so you said you were the bottleneck. That's actually the working title you and I had.
Yeah.
Where do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was the limiting factor in the growth and expansion of the organization. I was the person who I started initially looking at other people and laying blame on other people until I heard it was a CPA who gave me that phrase, what is it about my leadership that led to this result, that I realized that I was the reason why we weren't able to advance.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a book called The Oz Principle?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that the concept that you're talking about is in a book called The Oz Principle, OZ, Oz Principle. Now that only came out pretty recently. I've been using that model in my coaching and in running my own companies for many, many years, about 21 years. And I'm sure it's older than that, but I learned about it 21 some odd years ago. And then a few years ago, the Oz Principle came out. But the premise behind that is that we can separate people by the way they react and act towards choices in the world. They choose to be above the line or below the line, right? And so above the line are people who take responsibility. They're proactive. They take some ownership for the things they do. They have some sort of vision, and they want to be excellent. They want to do great things, whatever it is, and those are big words, but sometimes those show up as very small human things. But the opposite of that is below the line. And these are people who place blame. They make excuses. They're negative. They're in denial. And they see the world in a very small way. So if Mark got something, Dominic lost something. Like as simple as a parking spot, right? And so they might come into work muttering, oh, how come Mark always gets the best parking spot? To which us as the owners would say, because Mark shows up on time. Mark's here early, But to that person who's below the line, they see that Mark is somehow blessed and gets all these wonderful things. And how come I'm always left behind? And so they just see the world in that. I always say their world is more and more about less and less.
Right.
So that's above and below line. So so if you want a book to support this, what the CPA said, I would suggest the Oz Principle.
Well, thank you. That's a great one. That's good to know. My favorite business book is The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack.
Oh, isn't that great?
Yeah. That was one of the things that helped me to allow the changes to be made in our organization, because I looked at my role as, how do I help somebody get to where they want to be? And that was allowing me to let go, not worrying about, okay, what am I going to get out of this? And it's when I realized that when I allow somebody to get where they want to go, I will benefit. And I don't know if it's a universal law or what, but it's,
I don't know.
Yeah. I gained 10 times whatever it was that I think that individual was getting. It's worked for me every single time.
Yeah. It goes to servant leadership as well, taking care of others. And that ultimately that comes back. And my favorite saying for myself that goes along with that line is, it's my job to throw as much value at the world as I can. Right. And I should just be happy with the overspray.
Nice.
But if that puts the responsibility on me to throw enough value as hard as I can, that overspray takes care of me. If it's weak, if I'm just throwing weakly, then I don't get much, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Mark, you being on the show today has helped me do that, I think.
Oh, thank you.
I love your style, because you're very wise, you're very quiet. You don't come over the top with, it's got to be like this. This all sounds like it's been sort of tested a lot by pressures, and you've modified to get there.
Yeah, it's my life journey and my experience. And if I can share and help somebody else not make that same mistake, I'm more than happy to do that.
And you guys are up in New York, and
Yes.
In the Buffalo area?
Buffalo, New York, yep.
Yeah. And that beautiful sunset. For people who can't see the sunset behind Mark, we're doing this as a YouTube video and as a podcast. So is that a lighthouse back there?
Yeah, it's an old lighthouse that it's dormant right now, but it still sits out there. And it was actually hit by a ship and it was never repaired after that. So
because it didn't work.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that funny?
Yep.
One day, Mark, remind me to share with you a presentation I have. It's about leadership. And the question is, are you the captain or are you the lighthouse?
Interesting.
Maybe it's a good nautical theme that we can
I like that.
Around one day.
I would love to learn about that from you. That'd be great.
Mark, if somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
They can email me. They can call me. My email is mutech@utechwaterproofing.com. I'm happy. I love mentoring. I'm happy to answer questions, help anybody out that is interested in getting over a struggle. One of my taglines on my email is challenges are opportunities in disguise. So I'm always looking to try to help people out.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Your wisdom has gone across the world because we've got people in the States and Canada and the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, all over the place. So hopefully your message is resonating with a bunch of people out there who are in their trucks right now, driving around going, huh, I could do that.
Yeah, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.